Hi everyone, welcome to BRICS Briefs. We're excited to welcome Yaroslav Lissovolik to our BRICS Brief live stream today. We understand that his name might not be super familiar on this platform, but we promise you that he's one of the most influential voices in Russia and in the BRICS environment. Really. We've invested a lot of time in getting him on the show and introducing him to our audience. Lissovolik is a true visionary and economic expert whose insights have been instrumental in shaping the global narrative around BRICS. Yaroslav's distinguished career spans from his early days at the IMF in Washington to leadership roles at Deutsche Bank and Sberbank, the largest Russian bank, culminating in his founding of BRICS Plus Analytics, a powerhouse for in-depth research on BRICS development. His work has been a significant inspiration for us. We've based some of our most successful videos on his articles, and we can't help but speculate that he's a shadow influencer behind many of the BRICS Group's strategies. With degrees from Harvard, London School of Economics, and the Moscow State Institute for International Relations, and numerous publications to his name, Yaroslav is not just an expert. He's a BRICS guru whose knowledge continues to shape the economics landscape. We're truly inspired by his work, and we are excited to dive into this conversation. Okay. Welcome, Yaroslav. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much, Clive. Thank you for the kind words. Thank you.
Sure. All right. Okay, we're going to run a short intro just to introduce the topic. So we'll be back in about 3 minutes.
Something truly incredible. We are absolutely thrilled to present you with an exclusive, one-of-a-kind interview featuring the brilliant Yaroslav Lissovolik. This extraordinary thinker has completely revolutionized our understanding of BRICS and its dynamic role in the global economy. You are in for a real treat as we dive deep into the mind of this visionary, exploring groundbreaking ideas that are shaping our world. Yaroslav Lissovolik isn't just an expert. He's a visionary who's reshaped how we view economic cooperation across the Global South with his insights into the BRICS Plus initiative. His work has been a key part of many of our most successful discussions. In this interview, we will look more closely at the details of his ideas that have really made an impact. Lissovolik's BRICS Plus concept is more than just an expansion strategy. It's a transformative vision for global economic governance. By extending the BRICS platform to include a broader array of regional partners, BRICS Plus aims to create a platform of platforms that integrates major regional blocs such as MERCOSUR, the African Union, and ASEAN. This integration fosters deeper cooperation and strengthens the collective voice of the Global South in international affairs. One of the most compelling aspects of Lissovolik's work is his analysis of dedollarization. In our conversation, we will explore how BRICS Plus could serve as a catalyst for reducing global dependency on the US dollar. Lissovolik argues that by promoting the use of national currencies within the BRICS Plus framework, member countries can enhance their economic sovereignty and reduce their vulnerability to external economic shocks. This move towards dedollarization is not just about financial independence. It's about reshaping the global financial architecture to be more equitable and representative of emerging market economies. Adding an extra layer of intrigue to our discussion, Yaroslav Lissovolik recently returned from a professionally significant trip to China. While details remain under wraps, his insights from this trip will provide a unique perspective on China's strategic thinking and its pivotal role in driving the BRICS Plus agenda forward. The visit underscores the deepening ties between China and other BRICS nations, and Lissovolik's observations promise to offer valuable behind-the-scenes insights into the future direction of this influential group. This interview is a rare opportunity to hear directly from one of the foremost experts on BRICS, whose ideas are shaping the policies and strategies of nations across the Global South. Join us as we explore the future of BRICS Plus and its potential to transform the global economic order. This is an interview you won't want to miss, especially if you are interested in the undercurrents that are driving one of the most significant shifts in global economics today.
There we go. Okay, go ahead, Anastasia.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. We are pleased to have Yaroslav Lissovolik today with us. Thank you very much for being with us. Thank you very much for your time. So I want to apologize for being on vacation mode today, but it's time to have some rest as well. But I could not allow myself to not to participate in today's discussion, Yaroslav, because we are very excited to have you here and to talk to you today. I guess our viewers will appreciate and our listeners as well. So let me start the questioning.
Yep.
I will start with an easy question to get the conversation going, and then we will save the most controversial questions for the last. Today we will not go too political, but we will seek to economic and future-oriented topics today. So, Yaroslav, you like the idea of BRICS Plus, and we see even the BRICS Plus you mentioned in your blog. But the Russian BRICS Chapter, Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov, said in an early interview in January this year that there is no BRICS Plus or other name. The brand is and will remain only BRICS, simply BRICS. So, how do you align with this vision?
Yes, I think it's only for the better that this statement was made with regard to how the BRICS bloc is to be named. I think it only makes sense for BRICS to retain its name and to stay BRICS and not BRICS Plus, because we're talking about the core of BRICS, and the core of BRICS is already a brand of sorts, and it shouldn't really change because everybody knows what BRICS is. But BRICS Plus should be a concept that should still signify the open-ended nature of the BRICS Plus concept and the possibility for the BRICS core to forge alliances across the global south and possibly within the format of BRICS Plus Plus with the developed world as well, with its development institutions, etc. So I think it is only for the better that we have BRICS staying as the brand, as the name for the core. And then BRICS Plus is still a concept yet to be developed, but a concept that basically signifies or brings together all of the possible modalities in which this BRICS core can cooperate with the world economy, whether it's within the context of the so-called partnership belt, and we may see that concept being developed in the course of this year. Maybe there will be announcements we'll see during the BRICS summit in the course of this year regarding the composition, the underlying concepts around this partnership belt. And then there may be various modalities of cooperation with regional organizations, regional integration arrangements, with the regional development institutions. The possibilities are endless. There are tremendous possibilities to forge various alliances across the developing world. The BRICS are only starting. And of course, already at this stage, we see that there are a lot of questions that are being raised about what are the new directions, what are the next stages of BRICS development. Should it continue to expand the core, or maybe there are other modalities of BRICS expansion or BRICS Plus that may be developed as well.
Okay, so BRICS is always BRICS, and we are not going to see entire alphabet in this way.
I'm thankful for that. It makes it very difficult to write and talk about it otherwise.
Yeah,
So
I think this whole infatuation with trying to come up with new abbreviations is taking out some of the meaning from partly the BRICS Plus concept and the whole concept of BRICS expansion. The BRICS expansion is not about abbreviations. It is about a very concerted effort to try to build better economic cooperation with the development world.
no, absolutely, and we have made an effort to not be too political because we know that it's not your expertise, and you've been in quite sensitive roles in the past, which are sensitive to political. I mean, this is the nature of politics, power. So, just so audience understands, when we're going to be talking about economics, so and what that means, and that's Yaroslav's expertise, and we have to respect him for that. So, but actually, and on economics, so the BRICS Initiative and global integration. So you talked a little bit about that as far as the branding goes, but one of the major topics, Yaroslav, is de-dollarization and economic sovereignty. I mean, this is, in my opinion, from studying the origins of BRICS, it's certainly economic development and physical economy development was one of the principles. So de-dollarization has become a crucial topic within the BRICS Plus discourse, particularly as member countries seek to reduce their dependency on the US dollar. How do you see the BRICS Plus initiative driving this shift towards greater use of national currencies, and what challenges do you anticipate in implementing this strategy across the diverse economies involved?
Well, I think the number one issue and the number one challenge is for this process of the greater use of national currencies to have an economic basis, a solid economic basis. And I think you've heard a lot of economic experts say that for the national currencies to be more widely used, you need the underlying factors such as mutual investment, South-South investment, South-South trade to intensify and to be more significant in order to then be serviced by greater flows and payments in national currencies. We are seeing these trends, and we do see some positive trends in terms of greater mutual trade amongst the BRICS members, including the likes of China and Russia, where mutual trade has exceeded the previously set target of $200 billion per year in terms of mutual trade turnover. And there's far more than that can be done, because still, even after the growth rates that are quite significant in mutual trade in the past several years, the levels are not that high when you see trade levels, say, between China and some of the large developed economies, including the United States. So there's still a lot of work that needs to be done in that regard. And I think one of the most important steps to boosting mutual trade is, of course, mutual trade liberalization. I think this is an issue that is not yet prominent enough in the agenda of BRICS development. It should be pursued more vigorously. In my view, there should be a roadmap of trade liberalization. Of course, there's more. I think my sense is that there's a bit more emphasis probably on mutual investment projects to some degree. But in terms of mutual trade, I think there's a roadmap of sorts that could be developed. And the BRICS Plus concept in that regard can play a crucial role, because BRICS Plus, one of the concepts, including the concept that I developed, is to bring the regional integration blocs closer together that are led by BRICS core economies. So in the case of Russia, this is the Eurasian Economic Union. In the case of Brazil, this is MERCOSUR. In the case of South Africa, this is the African Continental Free Trade Area, etc. So each of the core BRICS economies has a regional integration bloc through which some of these BRICS economies are starting to conduct their trade policy. So if you're trying to talk about mutual trade liberalization across BRICS economies, you have to bring on board also their respective regional blocs, because it is through these blocs that a lot of the trade policies are starting to be implemented. So I think once you start to operate in this broader platform that comprises not only the core BRICS economies, but also their regional partners, you have greater possibilities to pursue trade liberalization. And then you also have more scope for conducting payments in national currencies, because the payments in national currencies may be used not only between the core BRICS economies, and by the way, this is yet to be, again, developed more vigorously, but there's quite a lot of scope to use the national currencies of core BRICS economies in their regional neighborhoods and their regional integration blocks. In some cases, this is already the case, and there's scope to make use of that employment of national currencies in this regional context. Some of the concepts of such as BRICS Pay that was, I think, discussed since as early, I think, as 2017, they involved also the concept of trying to co-integrate not just the payment systems of core BRICS economies, but also the regional payment systems, taking into account the regional partners. And that, of course, increases the scale significantly of the possible use of national currencies. Back in 2017, I developed what I call the concept of R5. And the concept, I called it the R5 initiative. It's called R5 because all of the currencies of BRICS countries start with the letter R.
Yeah.
And
Funny that.
yeah, the concept was to use national currencies of BRICS economies in the transactions of not just in trade, and of course we're starting to see more of that now, but also their respective development institutions, development banks, regional financing arrangements, such as, for example, the Eurasian Development Bank, etc. And within these regional development institutions, you have BRICS core economies being leaders, being the main engines of development. And you, of course, can create more scope to use national currencies, BRICS national currencies, in the transactions of these development institutions in terms of their loans, in terms of their projects. And the same thing goes with respect to, of course, the new development bank, whose operations increasingly, I think clearly, will be geared towards the use of national currencies. And of course, another aspect to the R5 initiative was the creation, was the concept of a reserve currency, what I call the R5 or R5 plus reserve currency, that is to be a basket of the respective currencies of core BRICS economies. I mean, we clearly saw that since 2022, this concept was very actively discussed. I think it was one of the most actively discussed concepts with regard to BRICS. And currently, I think there's quite a lot of skepticism with regard to this concept. The emphasis now in terms of the discussions within BRICS and BRICS decision-making seems to be shifting towards prioritizing the use of national currencies and the development of new payment systems. But I think inevitably at some point we will see a resurgence in the issue of R5, the possibility of creating that currency as one of the gateways to also bolstering the use of national currencies of the BRICS Plus economies.
So just to be clear, oh, sorry, Anastasia.
Sorry, Clive. I cannot resist not asking. When we are talking about the basket of currencies, R5 currencies, there is a lot of speculations about which it will be backed. All that currencies will be backed by what? By gold, by natural resources, or by what?
It is still absolutely. This is one of the debates, and one of the views is that maybe there shouldn't be anything in terms of trying to back up this new currency. Others say it could be gold, it could be oil, it could be resources, mineral resources that other, for example, developed economies don't have as much of a scope to use with respect to their own currencies. Ultimately, I think it may be that such a currency, if it is developed, may be backed up by these resources if this is really viewed as a competitive advantage for this currency. Because ultimately, I think what we need to try to attain with the introduction of such currencies is greater optionality for decision makers, for businesses across the world. They need a wider array of reserve currencies. We clearly see that there is a shortage of such reserve currencies now. There should be more. And maybe this BRICS currency can be an additional element in this array of reserve currencies. And clearly, I think there needs to be something within this framework of currencies that really shows that there is something that backs this currency in terms of international transactions. Clearly, I think that there's a lot of emphasis on resources, on mineral resources. I think this is a bit overdone, and far more emphasis needs to be placed in these discussions on ensuring a macroeconomic framework that is solid, that is sustainable. And if we're talking about the BRICS economies, that means greater fiscal stability, lower levels of debt, anything that could provide assurances to the markets, to investors, to businesses, that this is a currency that is backed up not just by resources. Resources is great, but also there is a critical element of macroeconomic stability behind that.
No, absolutely. Can I, before Anastasia goes on to the next question and topic, just to clarify, Yaroslav, when you're saying regional, by the way, I love the R5. That's great branding. You should go into marketing because that's really good, right? It's very snappy and it's true and it aligns with it well. But when you say regional, are you talking about like the country and the regions within the country? Are you talking about like the continent and then using the currencies?
I'm talking about I'm talking about not the sub-regional constituencies or the sub-national constituencies. I'm talking about the regional, meaning supranational constituencies. So, for example, MERCOSUR in Latin America comprising several economies, the Eurasian Economic Union comprising several economies, and that being the wider region rather than municipalities or individual regions. But of course, the BRICS Plus concept can potentially also comprise other aspects of regionalism, not just the supranational regionalism of continents and regional blocs regional integration arrangements, but it also can comprise concepts that have to do with municipalities, regions, etc. That's also a possibility. That's a platform that could well be developed.
Right. So, and I just want to, I can't help it, but I have to ask you this, right? Because Anastasia's bringing this up and we're going a little bit off script, but I'm going to ask you if you can be brief so we can get through the rest of what we had planned. She's asked about, backing the currency. When we're talking about currency, but obviously we're talking about currency issued by private central banking system. Do you have a comment about that in this context of what we're talking about?
Well, I think there are various ways in which you can address these issues in order to, to minimize the impact of possible restrictions or possible limitations with regard to such currencies. One of the paths that is currently being discussed is the use of the so-called CBDCs, the central bank digital currencies. And this is something that, potentially can significantly increase the efficiency of transactions, the speed, etc. But it can also significantly lower the possibility of various interventions or restrictions with respect to such currencies.
Okay. No, cool. All right. Go ahead, Anastasia. Sorry, I couldn't resist. We've got an expert. I need to ask.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah. So now we move to China or am I lost? China as well, or de-dollarization.
Yeah.
Clive, we are talking about de-dollarization, right?
Right.
Because I have some misconnection. So,
talking
about the okay. So we have talked a lot about currencies, and let's move towards other continents. Maybe it's time to talk about your trip, Yaroslav, to China. And based on your observations, what insights can you share about China's strategic priorities within BRICS Plus and how they might influence the future trajectory of the initiative?
Well, I think clearly China has played a key role with respect to the BRICS Plus initiative. If anything, this is the initiative that was launched by China back in 2017. So the BRICS Plus concept was essentially introduced into the BRICS decision-making by China during the BRICS Plus summit in 2017. And then, of course, there was a bit of I would say, a bit of a lull in terms of the development of that concept and its progression and the outreach of BRICS with respect to the wider global community. But then you had again, 5 years later, China's presidency in BRICS in 2022, and China reintroduced that concept, that platform with far greater force, with far greater vigor, by inviting far more countries into this platform. And accordingly, you had far more countries being part, essentially, of the BRICS Plus process. That, in turn, delivered a critical impulse to the popularity, not just of the BRICS Plus concept, but BRICS as a whole in the world economy became far more appealing and far more popular. We started to see dozens and dozens of countries, developing economies, lining up to join BRICS and expressing their readiness to join this platform, because China, during the BRICS Plus summit, essentially signaled that this is a unique platform that is open to all members of the developing world. So In that regard, clearly China, I think, played a leading role in launching this BRICS Plus concept, and now we clearly see that it is being developed more and more by other BRICS economies, and I think in terms of the strategy of China with respect to this BRICS Plus concept, clearly, I think there is the willingness, as was spelled out back in 2017 by Chinese officials, that this is supposed to be the widest, the greatest platform that is to bring together developing economies across the globe. So I see the current strategic goal of China to make it to position BRICS and BRICS Plus more clearly on the international map, and to essentially, make it an important part of the agenda that is being discussed. I think there are a lot of things that China could have done with respect to its own, say, national projects, national interests, like the BRI project, for example. It could have attempted to try to bring together BRI, the Belt and Road Initiative, more closely with BRICS. But I think there's a clear understanding on the part of China that they need to be driven more by kind of considerations that are wider than just the narrow national interest. So I didn't see as much this BRI issue being pursued, even though, of course, a lot of the economies that were invited to the BRICS Plus summits and BRICS Plus platforms were close allies of China, as you probably would expect. Certainly during the initial stages of the development of the BRICS Plus platform, that's only to be expected. But overall, I think clearly the strategy seems to be working in terms of BRICS Plus being more and more appealing to a wider range of economies. There are more and more economies that are lining up to join BRICS. And certainly China's another factor here in the BRICS Plus concept is it's a role model. It's a very important role model with regard to other developing economies in terms of its capability to deliver debt reduction on a massive scale, generate high rates of economic growth. And even despite all of the difficulties that the Chinese economy is experiencing now, the tremendous contribution that China delivered to the development of the global South in the preceding decades, the example of how poverty can be reduced on a large scale, is a very important beacon with respect to other developing economies in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree. I mean, China being a manufacturing powerhouse, and the sort of development, physical development, the massive, beautifully engineered bridges and the railways is very inspiring. And a lot of countries have a lot of trade with China. So they want to be close and they want to have more opportunities to dialogue with China representatives.
Absolutely.
So it makes sense.
I have to say, I was very impressed during my trip with Beijing, with how things progressed in terms of infrastructure development, including in terms of the environment. I was there previously, and with quite a significant lag. I think I was there before 10 years before I I visited the country recently, and certainly the contrast in terms of the level of infrastructural development, in terms of how cleaner the city became, I think that is that was quite significant. Yeah, that was quite impressive. And overall, the agenda, I think it's very important that you have, when you look at what the agenda is for China, it's clearly very encouraging that they're very much looking at the development of the green economy segment. Some of the more competitive segments of the economy internationally are starting to be positioned in the green segment, such as the EV vehicles. And we're seeing that some of the protectionism from the advanced economies that is being leveled with respect to Chinese goods is precisely in this segment. Even though the challenge for the broader global economy is precisely to go more green and to improve the environment. So there are a lot of things that I think China can still contribute. And I think the key issue with respect to China going forward will be its capability to develop in the technological space, including in areas such as AI, etc. Where again, we're seeing that some of the Chinese platforms are quite competitive, and despite all of the difficulties, continue to forge ahead.
No, absolutely. Actually, China's a very interesting topic politically too. But we've got a question here from one of the viewers, Krista Liz, who's regularly on. I'll read it because some people just listen to our podcast. But if you want to address it, it's up to you. Explain about derivatives market, how speculator and hedge funds work in manipulating commodity price. Example, in 2020 when oil price became negative 20. It's a bit off topic, but if you can briefly address it.
Well, I mean, it's not strictly in the BRICS space, but maybe if I were to try to bring it closer to the BRICS, our BRICS discussion, I think one theme that is clearly very important is for the BRICS economies to develop greater liquidity in the currency pairs, and whether it's across currency pairs such as ruble yuan or the Brazilian real and yuan and other currency pairs. So there is a significant degree of financial market development that BRICS economies need to go through in order to have greater scope for financial integration, for greater transactions between each other. And of course, the derivatives market in that regard, while clearly, as we see in terms of many examples, being susceptible to speculative waves, it is also one of the ways to develop financial markets, to render them deeper, to bring in more market operators into the market, and to increase liquidity in financial market flows. So this is something that I think the BRICS economies also need to look into, and to have concepts of how various segments of financial markets across the BRICS platform are to develop. And one of the themes that has been discussed in the past several years has been bringing together, or bringing about greater collaboration between the exchanges, the respective exchanges of BRICS economies, of core BRICS economies. So I think while there are segments of financial markets that are volatile, and volatility is a problem for BRICS. If you look at the issue of currency volatility, for example, and by the way, currency volatility was deemed by many as one of the limitations for BRICS economies in trying to develop a single currency or in advancing greater use of national currencies. These derivatives will need to develop also amongst the BRICS economies in order to have more liquidity and deeper financial markets in their mutual transactions.
Right, that's a very interesting point. Having enough liquidity because it's quite a negative concept generally with derivatives speculation. It's not, obviously you have a history of being a professional in this area, and it does facilitate production, but also there's the other side, right? I think it's important to note here, Yaroslav has given his expert opinion, but I'll just comment and say, when a state can issue credit, that could also be a solution for that. But let's continue, because otherwise we're going to get right into it. I'd love to get into this this conversation a lot more with Yaroslav, but we'll do that another time too. I've got a few comments have come up here from the audience, and I don't want to not show them, but there's not questions. So we got here one from Crystal is China build Zimbabwe new parliament building for $160 million for free. That country still suffers from sanctions for kicking the British out. Okay, there we go. Not a question, but I'm just putting that out there. Anyway, I will put up more of your comments because we really do appreciate them. But we want to make sure we get through everything that we got planned. So on particularly this topic, and I know you're really right into this topic, particularly now, you have been working on this a while, Yaroslav, to do with regional integration in the global south. The BRICS Plus initiative places strong emphasis on regional integration as a way to amplify the economic power of the global south. How do you envision this integration evolving, particularly in terms of trade, investment, and financial cooperation? And what role will regional development banks play in this process?
Yes, I think regional integration is absolutely crucial for the development of BRICS Plus as a platform that is to reach out to the majority of developing economies. In fact, I would say that it is through bringing together the regional integration arrangements of the developing economies that the BRICS Plus format can attain its greatest expansion, so to say. It can include the maximum number of countries, as opposed to trying to go one by one in expanding the core. I think expanding the core clearly has its limitations. And we see now that the expansion of BRICS core has been put on ice in a way. But there remain other options and other tracks in terms of BRICS Plus development and bringing together regional integration arrangements such as MERCOSUR, such as the Eurasian Economic Union, or the various regional integration arrangements in Africa and Asia. That's a possibility, and that, importantly, I think that opens up the possibility of being part of BRICS Plus to a far wider array of countries, including small economies. If we're talking about the expansion in the BRICS core, it seems to have been focused mostly on bringing on board large economies, large players in the global south. The regional factor, bringing together regional integration arrangements, allows for far greater diversity and inclusivity in terms of bringing in smaller economies as well. And what this format allows for is, as I said, it opens far greater scope for trade liberalization, because a lot of the trade liberalization will have, if it does proceed within BRICS, it will have to proceed on the basis of regional blocs, because it is the regional blocs that are responsible for trade policy in their respective regions. And of course, there's scope for greater investment integration, and that can be done again through regional institutions. So far, the many regional development banks where BRICS countries are members don't seem to operate as a unified platform, and such a platform, of course, could be created by bringing together all of these regional development banks, whether in Latin America or in Eurasia or in Africa. These regional banks could be coordinated by the new development bank, and they could co-finance projects, just like there is already cooperation between the new development bank, the BRICS New Development Bank, and the national development institutions. A similar circle or a similar platform could be created by the new development bank for the regional development banks of the BRICS Plus space. So there are a lot of modalities that could be pursued with respect to regional institutions. Quite frankly, I'm still surprised that despite the fact that such discussions have been underway since 2018, there hasn't been a lot of headway in terms of creating such platforms for regional development institutions. We see that globally something is starting to change. For example, the World Bank has decided to create a platform for regional development institutions, which includes, by the way, the new development bank itself, and that was done last year. So a platform like this does exist. Why not, for the BRICS Plus economies, to create something similar, create a platform for regional development institutions, only in that case, it is not headed by the World Bank, but at the level of BRICS Plus, it is headed by the new development bank. And similar modalities are possible for other types of development institutions, such as regional financing arrangements, the arrangements that are essentially in charge of looking at macroeconomic stability issues. They are potentially the suppliers of reserves if their functions are to be activated in this regard. So again, a possibility to create a platform for regional financing arrangements, and the BRICS Contingent Reserve Arrangement that hasn't been used so far. It's been created, but it hasn't been used so far. It could be, again, an overseer, if you will, or a coordinator for these regional financing arrangements. So there are a lot of things that could be done. These tracks are not yet pursued vigorously, but they could be pursued going forward with substantial benefits for macroeconomic stability, for the scale of resources that could be brought to bear by the BRICS Plus economies. If we're talking about regional development banks, if you pool all of these together, there's far more available to finance large-scale priority projects. So this is, I think, very promising for BRICS Plus.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, you've actually gone into quite a lot there. It is a very interesting question, and people are very interested in this because so many want to join, and yet now they've gone, okay, look, let's not join. Let's do something a little bit different. Let's just have some partnerships. I get the feeling, Yaroslav, that the upcoming summit in Kazan is going to be sort of a little bit climactic. There's going to be conclusions. There's going to be announcements of decisions, maybe. I'm just wondering. I don't mean to add to this question too much, but
yes, I think there will be a lot of decisions to be made, and one of the most important ones will be on BRICS expansion. I think we're starting to see that it's less likely that there will be the expansion in the BRICS core. It's far more likely that we'll see the development of a different track for BRICS, which is the BRICS partnership belt. And maybe this partnership belt will include a significant portion of those countries that have already applied for BRICS membership. We'll see, but this is going to be a new track of BRICS development. The outreach of BRICS with respect to the partners in the global south will become more vigorous. BRICS will become more open progressively. And I think it's great that the BRICS is becoming clearly, irrevocably, I would say, more extrovert rather than being introvert. And clearly the past several years after the BRICS Plus summit in China, BRICS became again very extrovert. I think everybody sees the benefits of a more extrovert BRICS, of a more open BRICS that is open to pursue various tracks of cooperation with developing economies. And I hope that we will not see a reversal, as was the case after 2017, after China initially launched the BRICS Plus initiative. There was a bit of a reversal towards the introspective mode, if you will, introvert mode for BRICS. But I think, quite frankly, now it's irreversible. BRICS is going to become progressively more open.
Yeah, initially when that was sort of announced, I actually thought, oh, that's not good. But then I thought about it more, and I thought, actually, that is good, because then all these countries that want to come on board, they've sort of been, look, not yet, or whatever, because we don't know what's actually being talked about. But now, potentially, like you're saying, they could all come on board in the partnership belt, and then, which sort of makes sense in a sort of organizational hierarchy. I know that's generally how we organize things, in some sort of hierarchical form, with leadership being one of the principles of how we organize ourselves as a race. So yeah, it's interesting. I guess we'll see, right?
But I think what we should avoid in these discussions about BRICS expansion, there shouldn't be expansion for the sake of expansion. Expansion for the sake of bigger, more heavyweight BRICS. I think what we should have in mind first and foremost is the welfare of citizens across the global south, what they need, what they want, what they expect from BRICS. And I think there should be mechanisms to try to, first of all, get that feedback from the people, what they want, what they're interested in, what types of economic cooperation they want to see. And quite frankly, I think we want to see, first and foremost, more open markets, greater possibilities for trade, for investment, for migration as well. And this is something that then necessitates certain frameworks of cooperation, including through the cooperation amongst the regional integration blocs. Because personally, I think this is the only type of platform that can provide these very important issues in terms of, faster economic growth, more dynamic development being attained through more intensive mutual trade, South-South trade.
Yeah. No, sorry, I know Anastasia's had some issues with the connection, and we're just trying to manage it a little bit, so bear with us.
No problem.
So here we go.
Actually, I wanted to note one thing about the regional integration. We don't think BRICS once we have made a video about will Texas join BRICS? Do you remember, Clive, when there was a discussion about that the problems in the United States, and then we cooperated that regional we cannot say expansion, but integration. Is that possible even in theory? For example, that our video come through, that Texas will join BRICS?
Well, I mean,
Terra del Fuego.
It's a great question. It's a great question because as impossible as it may seem now, I think the key issue for BRICS is to be as open as possible, to show that it's not an exclusive club, that it's open to all types of economies, all types of constituencies, that it's a multimodal platform that can provide integration and inclusivity for, it could be a region within a country, or it could be a region comprising several countries, or it could be a platform for countries such as BRICS itself, such as the BRICS core. So I think this multimodal framework that is open to the outside world, not just to developing economies, but also maybe there are possibilities to create platforms that provide the possibility for certain regions or for certain countries or their development institutions, development banks, to participate and cooperate in terms of economic cooperation in various BRICS Plus platforms. I think this is the way to look at these things, and we'll see. I'm sure that in the coming years, a platform for subnational constituencies may already there have been several proposals such as this being advanced. I think that when this is done, then we'll see that maybe even constituencies in the developed world can be very much interested in joining their developing peers, because it's really appealing, I think, from an economic point of view. You have a lot of developing economies growing far faster than developed economies. Just recently, in the past several days, there were articles in leading newspapers about a significant part of developing economies growing faster than even some of the fastest growing developed economies, such as the US. There's also, of course, the factor that developing economies have a great potential of a far more sizable middle class. And China has been an example of this growing middle class becoming so appealing to developed economies, to companies in the developed world. So there are a lot of these possibilities that are harbored by the global South that could be opened by BRICS and BRICS Plus, for including, I think, for the development institutions and for the businesses in the developed world. I think furthermore, another concept that I have been developing in the past several years has been business models. And one of the business models that I developed is the BRICS Plus business model, whereby a company that is seeking to advance its products in the global South may adopt a BRICS Plus strategy, whereby it develops its products in the core BRICS economies, because these are large economies with a significant supply of qualified labor. And then they can advance with, profitably these goods that they produce in BRICS core economies to BRICS Plus, to the regional partners of these core BRICS economies, because these core BRICS economies, they have regional integration arrangements, they have free trade in their respective regions, and it will be cheaper for these companies to promote their products and advance their products in the BRICS Plus space through using essentially this free trade factor in the BRICS Plus platform.
That's interesting. Sort of makes sense. No, I think, well, unless, sorry, I'm just to manage the live stream here a little bit, Yaroslav.
Sure.
I think we've got a couple more questions and we really want to get through them. So I'd like to go longer, but we'll wait for the director to say yay or nay, because we're already reaching an hour. Usually we try to keep it under an hour, but I don't want to leave off, right? So because you've hit on this next, well, Anastasia sort of brought this up to do with the municipalities. these, the smaller regions. So you had explored the innovative idea of integrating local regions or municipalities, such as Argentina's Tierra del Fuego. Sorry,
Yeah,
into the BRICS framework.
Yeah,
Oh, thank you.
The world, as they call it. Yes.
Yeah. So an idea that introduces a new dimension into the group's expansion strategy. So today's discussion is particularly timely as it coincides with the International Municipal BRICS Forum in Moscow, where global leaders and experts are gathering to explore new avenues for cooperation within the BRICS Plus initiative.
Mm-hmm.
This event sets the perfect backdrop for our conversation about how local entities could play a role in enhancing the BRICS Plus framework. How could the participation of such local entities enhance the BRICS Plus initiative? And what potential challenges or opportunities do you foresee in integrating these non-sovereign regions into the broader BRICS strategy? I know you've sort of gone into that a bit, but
no, sure. I think first of all, if such a platform would be really useful just for connectivity purposes, to connect various municipalities across countries would be great in terms of the exchange and international best practice, in terms of, some of the cities have substantial experience in the global south in building smart cities and building local infrastructure, making their cities green. That experience can be shared through collaborations within such a platform. And then, of course, you could also look at the experience of similar platforms that exist at the global level. So, at the level of G20, there is a Urban 20 group that essentially it's a platform that brings together the municipalities and local governments, etc., that work together, cooperate together, exchange best practices. So this already exists at the global level in terms of this, what is called the Urban 20. Something like that could be done with the Urban BRICS, or a BRICS Plus platform that is created specifically for municipalities and subnational regions. So I think there are a lot of themes that could be pursued in terms of such strategic partnerships that could be facilitated. So I think this is, and the basis, as you said already, there is a forum that basically hosts a lot of these representatives from municipalities across the global south. I think you need to provide more economic substance, more economic direction in terms of how to develop trade links, how to develop investment links there across municipalities. How can this process work, transnationally, across borders? But clearly, there is significant demand, even judging by the attendance of the fora that we had in the past several years in terms of this BRICS Plus Municipal Forum. There just needs to be more substance, and I think it would be great if after each such forum we have an account of what the amount of accords or economic cooperation agreements on investment has been concluded during that forum. That would be interesting to hear going forward.
Doesn't the secretary note that during a meeting?
Well, typically you have that during such fora, and normally you have, during high-profile fora, figures being quoted about the amount of contracts that were concluded between various corporates, between various constituencies. But I think just having more numbers, having more economic substance would be greatly beneficial for such a forum.
Yeah, no, I get you. Yeah. No, go ahead, Anastasia. This is our last question and we're going to end off. All right.
Well, yeah, and I cannot avoid not asking about the question. It is very interesting for us, for our viewers as well, because recently we have made a video about WTO and BRICS, and where we explain that BRICS countries are not going to leave WTO. But the main goal of BRICS countries is to reform WTO,
Yes.
as well
Yes.
as other international organizations. So here we are talking about policy coordination among BRICS countries, especially within those global institutions like WTO. So this topic has been recurring theme in BRICS Plus agenda recently. So, in your opinion, how can BRICS Plus countries effectively coordinate their policies to strengthen their collective influence in these international forums, and what challenges they may face?
Well, first of all, as you rightly pointed out, Anastasia, BRICS economies, including in their declarations adopted during the BRICS summits, they invariably express support to the WTO. They express support to free trade, to trade that is not encumbered by restrictions, limitations, etc. So this is very important, and that gives the BRICS the moral high ground, if you will, to advance an agenda of reform that is to revitalize the WTO as an organization that is currently obviously suffering from an existential crisis of sorts. So one of the things that the BRICS could do, and the most important thing that BRICS could do, would be to establish a group within the WTO, a BRICS Plus group. Previously, when Russia joined the WTO in 2012, all of the BRICS countries became members of the WTO, but no grouping, no platform was created within that organization. Now, after the expansion, there's actually one country that is not part of the WTO within the expanded BRICS, and that is Ethiopia. So one of the issues that the common BRICS platform can pursue within the WTO would be to facilitate the conditions, to make them simpler for entrance into the WTO. Russia spent more than 10 years trying to get into the WTO. I think these conditions should be, of entry conditions into the WTO, should be greatly simplified, especially for countries such as Ethiopia that is experiencing a tremendous need for support from the external world. It's also a landlocked economy that needs connectivity, that needs trade. It needs WTO membership more than a lot of the other members of the WTO. So I think this is one of the issues. And then the other issue that can be pursued by such a platform within the WTO could be to bring regional integration arrangements of the Global South more into sync with the WTO, to have the WTO work together with these regional arrangements in advancing more open markets, in launching perhaps the new trade rounds. We haven't had new trade rounds within the WTO for almost several decades now. And I think with the Global South leading that process and taking on board these regional integration groups that should not be stumbling blocks to free trade and to WTO development, but they should be supportive blocks for the WTO and for the global economy. That is the paradigm that I think should be developed by BRICS and BRICS Plus within the reformed WTO.
No, that's great. Thanks. Thanks, Yaroslav. Is it? Oh, Anastasia's on mute. Do you want to? Because there's a lot of background noise, so just so you know, that's why. You're still on mute, Anastasia. There we go. Did you want to say something? Sorry, because you're on mute, so I
Well,
didn't
we
want
are in lack of time, and I since I
Yes.
have some issues with my connection. Clive, please proceed with the last question. That we even this question we can not ask.
Pretty much, yeah. We're over time, but
Yeah.
we really need to ask this. Okay, so it's about the IMF and BRICS representation, right? So in June, we had the chance to chat with South African professor Patrick Bond, who gave us some great insights into the financial moves of BRICS. Sorry, I'm reading this, so just bear with me, especially when it comes to the NDB. So the NDB and its role as a possible alternative to the Bretton Woods institutions. So Professor Bond, who is a political economist and professor of sociology at the University of Johannesburg, brought up some big concerns about what BRICS members are doing at the International Monetary Fund. So at the World Social Forum in February 2024, Professor Bond talked about how the recapitalization of the IMF by BRICS countries in 2015 led to an increase in their voting shares, which mostly benefited China, Brazil, India, and Russia. But this shift came at a cost to several developing countries, including Nigeria, Venezuela, and South Africa, which saw a reduction in their voting power. So, given your background, Yaroslav, including your time at the IMF, we think you're the perfect person to help us understand this issue better. Is Professor Bond right to say that while the BRICS countries are pushing for changes like de-dollarization, they've also made it harder for other developing countries to have a say at the IMF? Or is there a more detailed explanation behind this move that fits in with the broader strategic goals for the BRICS countries? You know, how do these actions...
Yeah, I think
No, go ahead.
There should be a bit of a different focus in this question with respect to the role of developing economies in the IMF. I can tell you there were so many discussions in the IMF regarding the change in voting shares across countries, and they haven't led to much. The speed of adjustment was probably decimal points of a percentage point per annum or even per 10 years. It was very slow, and it's still going to be slow because the fundamentals, the basics are the same. The country with the largest share in the IMF, more than 15%, is the US. Developed economies have more than half of the votes in the IMF. And that basically means that these changes that we're seeing in the redistribution of voting shares are very slow. And I don't think we should set our hopes on this process accelerating in any major way in the coming years. What clearly should be the focus for the BRICS economies with respect to the IMF is greater cooperation in the macroeconomic sphere, greater coordination, including through bringing together the regional financing arrangements, regional platforms, greater coordination in terms of their macroeconomic policies, but also within the IMF. There needs to be greater coordination as well. And essentially, if that coordination is attained amongst the BRICS economies within this expanded set of countries that now compose an expanded BRICS, then there could be material, qualitative changes with respect to how developing economies can affect decision-making in the IMF. What I mean is the following. The majority of the decisions in the IMF have to be adopted by a majority of at least 85%. So if you have a stake of more than 15%, you can essentially have a blocking stake with respect to some important decisions within the IMF. Until recently, if you take all of the voting shares of BRICS within the IMF, it fell just short of 15%. It was around 14%. But after the BRICS expansion that happened last year, and the inclusion of new countries such as the United Arab Emirates and Egypt, etc., you now have the BRICS economies, the expanded BRICS, having more than 15% of the total vote in the IMF. So that means that if, I repeat, if there is greater coordination within this expanded BRICS setting, then the BRICS economies can have a qualitatively more impactful influence on the decision making within the IMF. The focus should be different. Again, just to repeat, it is not about the decimal points in the shares that are being changed in the past 10 years or so. It is about greater coordination of the BRICS economies in key international organizations, including the IMF, which gives them a qualitatively a more unified and a more effective voice in terms of decision making. That should be the focus.
Yeah, that makes sense. That is quite significant. I mean, that's a big change from what it was before. So, yeah,
but again,
very interesting.
The important issue is for this coordination to be established and to be ongoing. So accordingly, of course, this is the reason why the various officials from BRICS countries say that the focus should be now on integrating the new members of BRICS into this platform, and to make sure that things work in terms of coordination, not just during the summits, but also on a day-to-day basis, if you will, including in international organizations such as the IMF and the WTO as well.
Wow, very interesting. Okay, I'm glad we asked that. We
now we
made
have
the time.
more clear picture. I guess our viewers as well have more clear picture of what is going on inside BRICS, inside all that structure and all that countries.
That's what we're hoping to do.
Is to bring information to the audience. Yeah,
absolutely. Anastasia, that's exactly right. As a sort of concluding here, we know having someone like Yaroslav, who behind the scenes does a lot of work, at least,
not behind the scenes. I'm doing everything very openly, nothing behind the scenes. Seriously.
No, I know what you mean.
You see all of my work on my website. Everything is very crystal clear, and I intend to keep it that way. Everything very open, just like BRICS.
Yeah, good. No, that's an excellent principle. Being transparent, you can have honest relationships.
It's a pleasure to read your work. Actually,
thank you so much.
And
Thank you. Thank you.
No, that's good. Okay, let's end off.
Is over, I guess.
It is. Yep. So thank you very much, Yaroslav. We'd love to have you back again. We'll try and organize that.
Time is over, I guess.
Yes, maybe in October.
Yeah.
We'll see. But we do want to drill down more into some of these topics. More focused. This is more of a general to show the audience that you exist. They can go and subscribe to your publications that you make, and learn more about you, how you view things as a professional. But anyway, let's end off. Thank you very much, Yaroslav. Thanks, Anastasia.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Anastasia. Thank you, Clive.
Thank you, Clive. Sorry for my being connected badly today.
No, enjoy your holiday.
Thank you very much for your time. We hope to see you not only once, but many times on our channel. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All the very best. Goodbye.
If you've enjoyed this episode and wish to join the conversation, you can comment below. Please like and share this episode to spread it as far as possible. Remember, you're our only sponsor and every bit helps. Consider showing your support with a super thanks or by buying us a coffee. The links are in the description. And even if you can't donate, sharing this video makes a huge difference. So thanks for tuning in to BRICS Briefs. We're currently on a semi-vacation mode, as you can see from Anastasia, so bear with us over the next couple of weeks while we have a little lower output of content. Don't forget you can follow us on our Substack and other social media platforms, especially our Telegram channel, for daily news on BRICS, all linked below. Stay curious, stay connected, stay optimistic, and let's keep exploring together. Paka paka.